Ever struggled with save and load logic? Well, stop everything because I'm about to blow your mind and show you how to make custom characters persist in Unreal Engine. There's no time to waste, so let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, to start out with this project in 5.4, we're going to go to Edit, we're going to go to Editor Preferences, and then what we want to do is go here to Asset Open Location and set that to the main window, close that and save that out. Now, right here, we're going to go to the content drawer. We're going to go to third person, into the blueprints, and we're going to create some assets right here. So we're going to start by creating two enums. So we're going to right click and we're going to go to blueprints, go to enumerations. For the first one, we're going to name it E underscore character color. Control Shift S. And then what you want to do is, while this is highlighted, you want to do a Control D to duplicate that. And instead of it being the color, we're going to change this one to size. Okay. Then we're going to need to make one more asset here, and it's going to be under Blueprints. And we're going to go to Search All Classes, and we want to create a saved object. So we're going to do a saved game object, this one right here. And then we're going to select it. For the name, we're just going to call it SG underscore character. Control Shift S. Now, while we're here, we're going to do a left click on the enums, and we're going to go ahead and unpopulate them. So we're going to do a left click, and then we're going to left click Control, and then right click, and we're going to select Edit so we can pull up both enums together. So let's go ahead and click on the color right here. And for this right here, we're going to add three different enums, okay? So the first one we're going to start out with is the default. And this is for the default color. The next one is going to be for, we're going to type in, we're going to go ahead and say golden. And then for the final one, we're just going to say wooden. Okay? Hit save. And we're done with that for now. We can close that out. Next, we're going to go to the size one, and we're going to add this as well, three of them. And like we did before, we're going to add the default, which is the default character size. We're going to add a, let's say a large size. And then let's add a small. And then we're going to hit save, and we can close that out as well. Okay, next, we're going back to our content drawer, and we're going to select, we're going to do a Control and left click on the third person character. And then we're going to also do the same for the save game character, okay? Right here, we're just going to right click and hit Edit. And we're going to need to add some variables here, okay? There's going to be three of them, so we can just go ahead and select the variable thing here. And we can just add all three, which is fine. And then for this first one, we're going to rename this. We're going to call this gender male question mark. So we're going to highlight this F2, gender male question mark. And then for these next ones, we're going to need to do enums. So we're going to do E and then we're going to say color, okay? Sorry, character. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to do E character color. And then we're going to rename this to color. And then we're going to do the same thing, but with this one, we're going to do character size, like so. And then right here, we're going to also rename it. Just hit F2, and then we can just go ahead and say size. Do a compile and save. Now, while we're here, we're going to need to make those same variables for the third person, and we're going to actually name them the exact same, okay? So let's just go ahead and hit the variables again. We can add all three. And then for the first one, we're just going to do the same exact thing like we did before. Highlight it, F2, and then gender male question mark. And then, like I said, this one here, we're going to do color. Make sure we can go ahead and just name these real quick. And size. And then we're going to have to get the enum, which is going to be character. So E, character. And that's going to be for the color for this one. And then next, we're going to do the character size. Now that we've done all that, we're going to hit a compile and a save. Now, while we're here, we're going to also add two functions. So right here under the functions tab, we're going to add one right here. And we're going to name this first function color. Let's call this F color for the function. And then we're going to do it again, and we're going to call this F size. So that's for the function size, and do a compile and a save. Now, we'll come back to this, and we'll populate this in a moment. So, but first, let's go back to our event graph. Okay, so real quick, just to keep things simple for us, we're going to go to the event begin play. We're going to hold down the S key and do a left click, and that's going to give us a sequence. And we want to connect the begin play to here. And we want to take this, we can, just drag this up a bit along with this and move this over like this. And then what we can do is we can connect this right here. Now, while we're here, we're going to make a custom event, and we're going to call this, we'll first do custom event, and we're going to call this update character. Okay. And then all we're doing is we're going to make sure this executes at the event begin play for this one. So we just made this here, and all we're going to do is we can do a compile and save, and we drag off of here, and then we type in update character. So any code that we add here will be added down here. Do a compile and a save. Okay, so for this next part, we're going to need to make two switch on enums. Now, enums are an interesting thing. So Booleans allow you to switch between two things, where enums allow you to switch between multiple things, right? So it's like think of an enum almost as a branch with more than two options, or, for as far as a Boolean. Okay, so let's do we're going to basically hold down the control and just drag that out here on the graph for the color and the size. And then we're going to drag off of each of these, and we're just going to do a switch on E color, and then a switch on E size. Okay. Now, we don't really need these two things right here. We just needed them so we can get these particular enums. Okay, so we're going to need to create two things real quick here. So we're going to hold down the control button. Okay, so right now we're gonna need to do, we're gonna need to create some logic that we're gonna put inside of our functions. And what we got here is we've got a Boolean and two enums. Now, a Boolean allows you to switch between two options, true and false, where our color and size enums allow us to switch between three different things or multiple different things. So Booleans and enums are similar, except for enums allow you to do more options than just two. So to start out with, we're going to hold down the control button, left click, and drag both of these out. And we're going to do something called switch, a switch on enum right here. One for this one, and then we're going to do another switch here as well. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to take this right here, and you can do a control X, which is fine. And we can take the color one and put it inside of the color graph right here. Control V. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of here, and we're going to change this. And we can hook this up like so. And we want to change this instead of calling selection. First, we can do a compile and a save. We want to change this to color. Okay, just to keep things nice and simple. And we don't need this variable inside of here because we're going to pass it through on the outside of the function. All right, so let's do the same thing we did here for the size. So we're going to take this, Control X, go to the size, scroll in here, left click, Control V, and then we're just going to, don't disconnect this yet. Make sure you first connect this to this one so that way it'll maintain its integrity of being that particular thing there. And then connect that. And then we can go ahead and we can delete that and put that there. Okay. Now, while we're here, we're going to drag the capsule component and add it down here. And then when we drag off of here, we're going to look for something called set world scale 3D. That's what we want, okay? Neaten this up. And we want to do while this is highlighted, do a Control D 2 times. And then we want to hook these up, the default and the small and the large, okay? Like so. Now, for the default, you're just going to want to do 1 for all these, and that's what the neutral default thing is for. Because we're using the capsule component to change the size of the character because it's the parent of the mesh, which is going to allow us to shrink the whole thing down, including the capsule. Now, for the large, we're going to do 2, so we're going to double the size of the original there. And then finally, for the small, we're going to do 0.5, which is going to be half the size of the default. Make sure to do a compile and save. Okay, so real quick, make sure you always set the target. That's the other thing I forgot right here, which is okay. That's what the red thing, that's why you get an error, because it doesn't know what to target. So we can do a compile and a save. Now, while we're here, we're going to need to grab this right here, just highlight it, and we're going to need to add an out. Now, we don't need to worry about the variable because we won't be using that, but we still need to have an out for all of these different settings here, so that way we can control the size outside of the graph. Compile and save. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the color. Okay, while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight this, and just real quick, I'm just going to make the actual outward one so we can just have it, and we can do a compile and save. Now right here, we're going to need to grab the mesh, okay? Because to change the color, we're changing the color of the mesh. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of here. We're going to do a set material, okay? And we want to go ahead and well, actually, we can move this to the side for now. And what we want to do is we want to do a Control D to duplicate that. And we're going to need to, let's see, go ahead. We're going to connect this up to the target. Double click here, make a reroute node, keep it nice and neat. And then what we want to do is we want to move this up here. And we're going to duplicate that, okay? Like so. Now, I made a slight, not a mistake, but just to be efficient, we're going to put a 1 here, and we're going to put a 1 here. And just so I can show you why we're doing that, if you click on the mesh here, you've got material 0 and material 1. And that's what we want right here, okay? Do a compile and save. Now, we're going to need to duplicate all this again. Right down below it, hit duplicate right here. Okay, so now for the golden, we can go ahead and we can set this up and put that right here like so. And then for the wooden, we can hook this up directly like this. But now for this up here, for the default, because the Manny and the Quinn have different actual material, we're gonna have to set this up slightly different. So first, we're gonna hold down the B button, hit a left click, and that's gonna give us a branch. We're gonna put the true up on the top, and we're gonna put the actual false on the bottom, okay? We're gonna grab our gender male, which is gonna dictate, depending on which one we are, that's the one that's gonna dictate, okay? Now, for the default, we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna hook this up. Now, right here, well, we can start with this, the easier one. So for the golden, all we have to do is select a material. We can type in gold, and we can select that, okay? And then what we can do is we can go to the browse feature, which will highlight the gold, and then we could just populate that as well. That makes it nice and easy, nice and simple. Now, for this one here, we're gonna need to do wood. You know, you just pick a wood color you like. I think I might like this wood oak one. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the wood oak. And then like that same thing, you're gonna browse to it, it's gonna highlight it, and you can use the arrow to populate that. Okay, now for the top one here, for the true, we're gonna set this to Quinn. So go to the mesh. And then right here, you can see you got Quinn 1 and Quinn 2. So we're gonna go ahead and hit the search or browse like we did before, and we're gonna populate this one because this is 0, right? Same thing, you got element 0, 1, same thing here. And then for this one, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna browse to 2. Same exact thing, okay? Now, we're gonna go back to our content drawer, okay? We're gonna go to instances, like see right here where Quinn is, we're going to instances, we're gonna go to the Manny. And for the Manny, we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna highlight the 1, we're gonna populate it by hitting this here. We're gonna do the same thing here, and we're gonna populate that by hitting that there. We're gonna do a compile and save. Okay, so now what we're gonna need to do is we can actually bring this a little bit closer together. Okay, and what we can do is, let me see, let me move this back just a hair. Actually, I might probably leave it like that. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to take the return and we want to hook all these up like this. Do a compile and save. Okay. Let's head back to our event graph. Okay, we're gonna have to start doing the update character here. And what we're gonna start out with is we're going to first do, does game exist? That should be the first thing we're gonna do. See, does save game exist? And then right here, we're going to give it a slot name, which is character style. Okay. So, and yeah, you just want to make sure you remember that. Or what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this. So just highlight it and do a Control C. And then what we can do is we're going to do a control, or I'm sorry, we're going to hold down the B button. Oh, let me do that again. It's a good thing I copied it. Okay, so let's go ahead, do a control V, and that will leave that there. Okay. Next, we're going to hold down the B button, do a left click, and we're going to make a branch right here. So if the save games exist and it's true, we're going to do a load. So we're going to go load game. Load game from save slot. And if we don't have a save game, we're going to save game to slot. I'm sorry, I meant we're going to have to create a game. Sorry, create a save. We have to create the save game object. And right here, we're just going to select that right here. So we're going to select the save game object, okay? I'm sorry, not that one. We're going to do the SG character, which is the one we made, okay? And then right here, you need to put the slot. So we're going to do a control V to populate the slot that we created. Do a compile and save. Okay, so now we're going to start with one side of the logic here. So we're going to go ahead and grab this, and we're going to promote the variable. And we're just going to call this, I'm sorry, not promote the variable. We're going to do a cast to node. I'm sorry. We can delete this out. We're going to drag off of here, and we're going to do a cast to character, which is this SG character. And it's, yeah, and then what we're going to do from that point is we're going to drag off of here and then promote this variable. And then, just leave it at its default name. Now from here, we're going to need to grab all the variables that are exactly, well, we can do a compile first, compile save. We're going to grab all these variables here, but they're coming from right here, okay? So we're going to drag off of here, and we're going to do a get gender. We're going to also get color. And then finally, we're going to get size. And just neaten this up a bit. Okay, so right now what's going on here is we're getting it from the load game, okay? And what you want to do here is we're going to hold down the Alt key, and we're going to set the variables that's in this blueprint. So we're going to start with the male. We're going to, while we're just maintain holding that key there, the Alt key, and just drag all these different ones out, okay? And we want to hook up these because these are going to change the variables, okay? Oh, I grabbed the wrong ones. I meant to grab the color. I meant to grab the size, so we'll grab the size. And then we need to hook all these up. Hey, quick interrupt. So, for the next part of the logic, we're going to actually do some activations here to, customize our character. So, as you can see here, it's going to look a little bit something like this. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe. If you like the video, then like the video. Okay, back to the video. Now, right here, we're going to hold down the B button, add a branch. We're going to connect the gender male up right here. And then right here, we're going to need to grab the mesh, since we're dealing with gender. And we're going to set skeletal mesh asset. And we can, while that's highlighted, do a Control D to duplicate that. Make sure we hit the target on that as well. We can raise this up a little bit. And we're going to hook up the false, and the true. And then what we want to do is we want to set the skeletal meshes. So we can just go to the skeletal mesh right here by hitting the browse button. While we got the Quinn highlighted, we can go ahead and set that as well. And then we're going to need the Manny simple, and we're going to set that as well. And we're going to do a compile and a save. Now, while we're here, I'm going to set up a print string because it just to make it so we can see in the corner of what's happening. So we're just going to say game loaded, and I'm going to have it pop up for like 5 seconds. And I'm going to change the color of the text for the print string to white. And then hit OK. And we can minimize that. That should be fine. And then right after here, you're going to hold down S and do a left click, and that's going to give us a sequence node. And then we want to drag this over here just to neaten it up. We're going to add one pin here. So this is going to be for the sex change here. And then what we want to do is we want to grab the color right here, which is this color function, okay? We want to grab that, and we want to hook that up. And we also want to grab the size function, okay? And we're going to hook that up. Now, we're going to need to drag off of here for the color and hook up the color. So now it's setting it and then it's executing it. No different than if you were to press a button and change the color here, okay? Same thing with the size. We want to hook this up as well. Like so. Make your code nice and neat. Okay, so now we're going to need to hook up the save game logic, and it's actually the opposite. So instead, you're going to do a set, okay, for all the different variables. So for instance, we're going to drag off of here, and we're going to type in the same thing. So we got gender male, right? But we don't want the get, we want the set, okay? Because we're going to use our character to set these different things here. Hook that up. And we're going to do all the variables like that. So let's go ahead and do color. Remember, we're doing the set color. And then we're also going to do set size. Or I'm sorry, just type in size. And we'll set the size. Now remember, this is coming off of the saved object, but we want to use our character to adjust this. So all we're going to do is grab the variables right here, which are instantly going to turn to get when you hook them up, okay? So we set the color, and then the size, okay? Do a compile and save. And it's important to do compiles and saves often. Okay, so now we're going to need to drag off of here where the created game is, and we're going to do a save game to slot. This is where this goes now. First we create it, and then we can actually save it, okay? Now, which slot do we save it to? We're going to save it to the exact same one that we load. So we're going to do a Control-C to copy that, because we want it to be exact, and do a Control-V. Now, just a real quick note here. The save game to slot, all this is doing is when they call it a slot, it is an actual file that is saved to the game engine. When you have this name, it's going to be the name of the file that is actually saved. That's how it becomes persistent, okay? Now, let's do the same thing we did here with the game loaded and highlighted, and then do a Control-D, and we're going to hook it up. But in instances, instead of game loaded, we're just going to put game saved. Compile, save. Okay, now we're going to move into the important, well, all of it's important, but this is another important part that we need to accomplish. So we're going to need to actually be able to change our character's, our character style. So we're going to start right here. We're going to do a one key. Okay. Sorry. One. We're going to do a one key. And we're going to scroll down, look for the one key. And then right here, we're going to hold down the B button and do a branch. Hook this up. Grab the gender male, go over it, and make sure the check mark shows up so we can have that there. So we can switch. And in essence, what we're going to do is we're going to need to get the character's mesh. And we're going to flip-flop or switch between the male and female at this one. So we're going to need to set skeletal mesh asset. While that's highlighted, do a Control D. We're going to set this for down here and this one for up here. And in this one, it's important that we put the many skeletal mesh here. So the new mesh, so we can highlight this mesh here. And again, we can go to the browse. And then what we can do is put the Quinn down here. And we're going to put the many down here. Now make sure that you hook up the target because we're targeting the mesh. We'll go back there, and then we're going to do this Manny simple again while it's highlighted, and then populate that there. Next, we're going to need to hold down the Alt key and do a gender male, drag that onto the graph in 2 spots. And we're going to hook those up. We're going to check this one for true because what we're doing is we're flip-flopping it. So on the outbound, it's got to be, the gender male's got to be true even though it's on the Quinn, and the female's got to be false even though it's on the male, because that's how you flip-flop between the two without actually using a flip-flop, okay? Now, we're going to need to get the variable, this AS, the save character component, and we're going to set gender and male, right? So we're going to drag off of here, and we're going to just type in gender. We're going to, we're going to set right here, and we're going to drag this here and this here because this is going to drive this. And then all we're going to do is just go ahead and duplicate that and hook this up at the bottom as well, okay? Make sure we're targeting this one and then this one for here. Do a compile and a save. While we're here, we're going to need to drag off of here, and we're going to need to get the save game slot again, okay? And we're going to hook both of these executions to the out of this because every time we switch, we want to make sure we save and update the slot. That's why we're adding the save game to slot here, okay? So now I'm just going to go back over here to where our loaded game was, and I'm going to double click and do a Control C because I want to copy it and make sure the character slot is exact in everything that we do. Go here and then do a Control V. Compile and save. Okay, so now we're going to need 2 more keys. So we're going to do a 2 key. And then we're also going to do a 4 key. And the 4 key is going to be like our reset for our color and size. And I'm going to show you that in a moment. So while we're here, we're going to need to grab the color enum. We're going to hold down the Alt since we're doing color next. And we're just going to drag this out here. Let's see, color. Yeah, drag this out here. We're going to need 3 of them. Okay. Now, for the 4, we're just going to set this right here. And we're going to leave that at default because that's what we're going to change it to, okay? Right here, we're going to do a flip-flop so we can switch between the gold and the wood color, okay? So we're going to set that here, and I guess we could drag that out a little bit. So we're going to set this, let's see, we can set this one to gold and this one to wood. Actually, we can drag this down a little bit. And what we need to do is we need to grab our object our saved object here. We can do get. And we're going to grab some enums from that as well. So we're going to grab, obviously, the color enum. So we're going to, let's see, we're just going to drag off of here, and we're just going to type in color. And we're going to type in set color, okay? And what we want to do is we want to do the same thing like we did up top there, but we're going to do a Control D to duplicate that 2 more times, Control D. And we can basically, let's go ahead and target this. Make sure that the target is targeting that. And then we're going to connect all these up. Because when you connect it up, it's just passing it from this variable to this variable, which is changing the save game object, okay? Or rather, it's updating the game object every time you change states. Now, while we're here, we're going to need to grab this here and do a Control D. Okay? We're also going to need to grab this and do a Control D. And we want to use this saved game object here. And we want to hook all of these up to this. And they're all going to update the save game object for this particular variable. Compile and save. Oh, sorry, I made one slight mistake. So we're gonna hit the Alt key and undo that. We're gonna hit the Control key while these two are highlighted, and we're just gonna move this over a bit. And we've got to use the function that updates the character. So we're going to use color for this one, obviously. Okay, and we're going to drag the color variable to touch that here, and that's going to basically adjust this variable here. Now we hook up all of this right here, okay? So it executes it, so it changes the variable and then executes changing the color of the material. Then right here, we're gonna hook this up. Compile and save. Okay, now that that's complete, so we've got the color, we've got the size, but we're gonna have to do this one more time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a 3 key. And we want to go ahead and grab this 4 key and do highlight it, Control D to put that there. And then we want to do the same thing. We want to put a flip-flop here. So right click, flip-flop. And now we're going to connect this up. And then what we're going to need to do is the same thing, but we're going to hold down the Alt key and do the size. So we're going to just drag the size ones out. We're going to need 3 of them, just like we did with the color. And the default one's going to stay default because that's what we're changing it to. So anytime with the 4 button, both of these will change at the same time. Connect this up. And then for the sizes, we're going to go ahead, we can do the large first, and then we can do small. Then we're going to need to do the same thing. We're going to have to grab the save game object. Get it? Just like earlier, we have to grab the variables. So we're going to drag off of here, and we're going to do a size. So we're going to set size, and we're just going to, while it's highlighted, duplicate it. And then we want to connect each of these up because we're passing that variable from this one to the next one. And hook everything up nice and neat. Now remember, we need to execute that, so we're going to use our function. We're just going to grab and drag it out here. Okay. Oh, and also make sure that we hook up the targets here. This is important because otherwise we will get an error. And then we're going to just hook these up right here. And then we want to take this variable and hook it up to the size. So that's what we're changing. Compile and save. We want to make sure that we Okay, we click out right here in the middle of the graph, do a left click and control and grab this two here, and then do a control D and hook this up like so. Compile and then save. Okay, so that should cover all the logic that we need. And basically, like I said, the number 4 button is going to set everything at default. And then, for 1 and 2, for the buttons up here, it's just going to only switch between the two meshes. Okay, I see a slight mistake I made here, and we're going to fix it right now. So if you look right here, I have gold and then I don't have wood. So we're going to need to put wooden right here, okay? And then do a compile and save. If not, it won't change. Okay, so just in case if you get any errors or anything, sometimes you'll have to close out the actual editor and reopen it, and that should fix it. And this is what it should look like. So if we hit the play button, instead of save game, it's going to say load game at the top, and then you can adjust your character to whatever you want. Okay, and then when you hit the escape button, that's when you sign out. And then now when you hit the play button again, everything should be persistent. You should be exactly the same mode you were in when you left. Now, another important thing I want to show you is this. So we're going to hit escape again. We're going to go to the content drawer. And what we want to do right here is we want to right click on the content right here. And we want to go to show in Explorer right here, okay? Now, what this is going to do is it's going to bring you to your My Projects content folder. And you want to go into, let's see, you want to go back one to the My Projects, go to your saved, and then you can also go to save games. Once you're in the save games, you'll see here it created your character style.save. So that's how you'll find that. Now, what I'm going to do just for the heck of it, I'm going to delete this. And now that when we deleted that, now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the play and you'll see the save game at the upper left corner. Game saved. And it should return you to your default character. Now we can go back one more time and we can change our character again. And, basically that's what you're going to see. So now if we hit escape again, okay, so now if this happens, the only thing you need to do is you can just restart the editor because sometimes it won't initialize because the variable is not being accessed. So we can close this out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean restart the editor, but what you can do is you can just close out because the initial saved object wasn't saved. So now when you do it again, it should work fine. So hit play, and then we can reset our character and hit escape, hit play again, game loaded, and everything should be exactly the same. Hit escape again, and you should have no errors. So sometimes with Unreal Engine, you're going to get some hiccups with the editor. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but thank you for watching this video. Please check out this next video that I have posted here, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.